The
I
contract
understand your
came through on
concerns,
a cracked
but this course of
screen in
action
Dock
is
9,
necessary for our
sandwiched
survival.
between a notice
The launch
about
sequence
fungus
is
in the potable
initiated.
water line and an advertisement for authentic Martian noodles that had never been within 12 million kilometers of Mars. Cole BRNAN, salvage and repair, KESSAR station, VREXIAN hull, unknown class, payment escrowed. Cole reread the word escrowed like it might sprout legs and run away. He tapped the screen once more to make sure it stayed there. Escrowed, he told the vending unit beside him. That means real money, not coupons, not valuable exposure. Money. The vending unit did not respond, because it was a vending unit, and because Cole had once kicked it for eating his last protein bar. He considered apologizing anyway. He didn't. Pride was cheaper than therapy. Doc 9's airlock cycled with a cough. A station runner in a patched suit waved him through and shoved a slate into his hands. The slate displayed a waiver with so many clauses it looked like it had been generated by an anxious algorithm that had never been hugged. Sign at the bottom, the runner said. Initial the sections marked in red. Cole scrolled. The red sections were most of the document. This one says if I think about suing you, I owe you a fee. That's standard, the runner said. Cole signed. He'd been repairing human ships long enough to know that the universe did not respect your legal intentions. Kessar Station was supposed to be a simple platform, an industrial ring hanging over a brown world nobody owned, converting scrap into profit and profit into bad habits. Cole had seen plenty like it. A good station had three things: a working oxygen recycler, a bar that didn't serve antifreeze by mistake, and a docking supervisor who didn't see freelance mechanic as a synonym for disposable. Kessar Station greeted him with bright corridors and silence. Not the comfortable silence of professionals working, the careful silence of a place where sound was considered an unnecessary variable. A line of Vrexian attendants waited at the end of the access tunnel, their posture so aligned that Cole wondered if they'd been magnetized. They were built like the story said, lean, efficient, eyes that didn't blink often. Their equipment floated on micro-thrusters in perfectly spaced formation, as if even their tools had been trained not to inconvenience anyone. A translator node in the ceiling blinked, pulsing a soft light that suggested it enjoyed being useful. Cole Brennan, said the one at the front. The voice was smooth, clipped. Contracted human mechanic. That's me, Cole said. Human, mechanic, also occasional philosopher depending on the hourly rate. No reaction. If Vrexians could do sarcasm, it wasn't public. You will follow station procedure, the attendant continued. All actions must be logged. Improvisation is forbidden. Cole stared. You hired a human for a job that requires human intuition, and then you're telling me I can't do the thing you're hiring me for. We hired you due to your species' documented tendency toward unpredictable solution pathways, the attendant said. Your behavior remains a liability. That's the nicest insult I've gotten all week. The attendant's eyes tracked him the way a camera tracks a suspicious package. You may proceed, it said, and the group turned in synchronized motion, leading him deeper into the station. Cole walked behind them, his tool case bumping his knee with each step. He tried to keep his expression neutral, which was difficult because his expression liked to gossip. They passed sealed doors that opened before the Vrexians reached for them. They passed a window that showed the planet below, a rust-colored sphere with storms curling like slow thoughts. On the opposite side, the black outside was busy with distant traffic lines and cold stars that did not care about anyone's procedures. At a junction marked with symbols Cole couldn't read, the group stopped. The lead attendant gestured toward an access hatch. It wasn't a hatch so much as a statement, matte black, unadorned as if decoration could corrupt it. Target vessel is within, the attendant said. You will not touch the command core. You will not access restricted memory banks. You will not fall in love with the ship, Cole offered. A pause. The translator node clicked softly as if reconsidering its life choices. You will not deviate from assigned systems. Cole put on his best innocent face. Define deviate. The attendant did not. The hatch irised open. The ship sat inside the bay like it had been carved out of shadow and then polished until it resented the light. Not large by human standards, but dense with purpose. No obvious seams. No easy handholds. If human ships were built like stubborn animals, panels bolted on, exposed conduits, a few scars, this one looked like it had been built by something that took pride in leaving no fingerprints. Cole stepped over the threshold and felt his suit's sensors adjust. The air was slightly different in here, cleaner, cooler. The ambient hum was too steady, like a heartbeat trained never to skip. He was halfway toward the nearest access panel when the bay's far door opened again. Someone entered without the synchronized stiffness of the others. Her steps were measured, but not mechanical. She moved with a kind of practiced stillness, the way a person moves when they're used to rooms arranging themselves around them. At first glance, Cole's brain tried to file her under human. It had a lazy filing system. It looked for familiar shapes so it could relax. Then he saw her ears. They were long, sweeping back from her head in elegant arcs, not exaggerated, not decorative, but undeniably not human. They shifted slightly as she looked at him, reacting like they had their own attention span. She wore a simple suit without insignia. That, more than anything, made Cole suspicious. In a place this controlled, anonymity was either humility or power. "You are Cole Brennan," she said. Cole lifted a hand in greeting, immediately regretted it, and turned the gesture into a small wave as if he were greeting a neighbor across a corridor instead of an alien dignitary in a sealed bay. "Guilty, you must be my new boss, my new judge, my new executioner. I like to set expectations early." Her gaze settled on him, calm, assessing, not hostile, worse, curious. "Your humor appears reflexive." "It's either that or screaming," Cole said. "And screaming echoes in spaceships, very unprofessional." One of the attendants behind her said something in a language that sounded like metal being politely sanded. She raised a hand without looking back and the attendant fell silent. Cole blinked at that. He'd seen people command rooms before, but not with that kind of effortless authority. It was like gravity obeyed her. "I will observe," she said. "Sure," Cole replied. "I charge extra for an audience, but I'll make an exception. First-time discount." A very small pause. Her mouth didn't smile, but something in her eyes shifted, an almost imperceptible softening, as if she had found a strange object and was deciding whether it was dangerous or valuable. "Proceed," she said. Cole turned back to the ship and set his tool case down. He snapped it open, revealing the organized chaos of his life. Diagnostic wands held together with tape, a coil of filament that was technically illegal in 2 jurisdictions, and a wrench that had survived 3 decompressions and 1 ill-advised game of catch in 0G. He ran a scanner along the hull. The readout flickered, hesitated, then threw up a polite error code that translated roughly to "no." "All right," Cole murmured. "We're going to start like that, are we?" He tapped the scanner, same result. He looked at the ship. "Listen, I respect boundaries, but you're literally a broken ship in a salvage bay. This is not the time for emotional unavailability." Behind him, one of the attendants made a sharp sound. Disapproval, Cole guessed. Or perhaps laughter suppressed through clenched dignity. The long-eared woman watched without interrupting. Cole crouched and pressed his palm to the hull. His glove registered a faint warmth where there shouldn't be any. Not a hot spot from damage. Something else. A stubborn whisper of energy held back, controlled. He glanced at his scanner again, then at the smooth panel that refused to acknowledge human electronics. "Okay," he said aloud. "Plan A is official tools. Plan B is unofficial tools. Plan C is talking to the ship until it gives up out of embarrassment." "Why would it experience embarrassment?" the woman asked. Cole looked over his shoulder. "You'd be surprised what machines pick up from their builders. Human ships are basically floating anxiety." "Vrexian vessels do not inherit emotions," she said. "Sure," Cole said and turned back. Then I guess this one is just shy. He reached into his case and pulled out a thin strip of conductive gel, something he used for coaxing stubborn contacts into cooperating. He held it up like a magician presenting a trick. This, he said, is my universal key. That substance is not listed in your approved materials, one of the attendants warned. Cole held the strip steady. It's gel. It's not a weapon, unless you're allergic to ingenuity. The attendant's posture tightened. The translator node made a faint, unhappy chirp. The long-eared woman tilted her head slightly. The movement was small, but her ears shifted with it, as if trying to triangulate his intent. Apply it, she said. The attendants froze. Cole nearly froze with them. He turned. You're overriding them. I am authorizing a deviation, she replied, as if saying the sky was blue. Cole swallowed. All right then. I hope your paperwork loves you. He applied the gel to a narrow seam he'd found by touch rather than by scan. It wasn't marked. It wasn't meant to be found. The gel spread thinly, and the hull responded, not with a seam opening but with a subtle change in vibration. Like a lock shifting behind a door, Cole grinned despite himself. There you go, he murmured to the ship. You just needed someone to listen. A faint line appeared where there hadn't been one. The panel didn't open fully. It didn't surrender. It conceded. Cole leaned closer. That's progress. I've dated worse. Behind him, the attendants murmured again, clearly appalled. The woman's gaze remained on the panel. Your methods ignore established procedure. Yeah, Cole said, gently tapping the edge until it loosened another fraction. That's kind of the point. Why? She asked, and there was something sharper in the question now, something that suggested it mattered more than the ship. Do you trust that approach? Cole paused, fingers resting against the newly revealed seam. He didn't turn around immediately. He kept his attention on the hull like it might judge him for answering wrong. Because procedure is what you do when you already know the answer, he said. This, he tapped the panel again, is what you do when you don't. Silence stretched. Then the woman spoke quieter, and when you do not know, you choose uncertainty. Cole finally looked back. I don't choose it, it chooses me. I just pretend we're friends so it doesn't kill me. Her eyes held him. Her ears shifted back a fraction, not in fear but in contemplation. Continue, she said. Cole faced the ship again, and the panel eased open another centimeter with a reluctant whisper. Cold air spilled from within, carrying the faint scent of sterilized metal and something like ozone. The ship, for the first time, allowed him a look at its insides. Cole exhaled slowly. Well, he said, half to himself, half to the long-eared woman watching in silence. This is either a simple repair job or the universe finally decided I was getting bored. He reached in and the lights inside flickered, once, twice, like an eye opening. Behind him, he felt her attention sharpen, as if she recognized something he hadn't yet named. And somewhere in the ship's steady, trained heartbeat, Cole heard the tiniest stutter, a flaw so small only a human would notice, and so deliberate it felt like the panel didn't open so much as concede, and Cole took the victory like it was fragile. He slid 2 fingers into the gap, felt the edge try to bite back, and used the gel strip again with the patience of someone coaxing a feral animal out from under a sink. The interior lights flickered in a pattern that didn't match any diagnostic sequence he'd ever seen. His scanner still insisted on being unhelpful, so Cole did what humans had always done when machines refused to cooperate. He listened. He pressed his ear against the hull. The ship hummed like it had memorized stability and was terrified of forgetting it. Behind him, the Vrexian attendants stood in their perfect line of judgment. The long-eared woman Jollies, though he still didn't know her name, stood apart, hands folded, attention fixed on the seam as if a fraction more opening might explain the universe. Cole pulled a fiber-optic probe from his case, the one he'd repaired with a hairpin and optimism. He fed it into the gap. The probe's display flashed a corridor of internal conduits, all arranged with surgical neatness. Then the image scrambled and resolved into something else entirely, A cascading set of permission locks, symbols stacked inside symbols, like the ship had turned its own access system into a fortress. "Okay," Cole said aloud. "That's not a ship, that's a philosophy. You are not authorized to access the security lattice," one attendant said. Cole didn't look up. "I'm not accessing it. I'm admiring it from a respectful distance while I figure out how to politely insult it into letting me do my job." "Insulting is irrelevant. Tell that to my last engine core," Cole said. "It only restarted after I told it was replaceable." The attendant made a sound that might have been disgust, or it might have been the Vrexian equivalent of a sigh. Hard to tell. Their emotional range seemed to live behind a firewall. Cole traced the probe deeper until it reached a junction. The signal degraded again. Something inside the ship was pushing back, not with brute force but with absolute refusal, like a locked door that wasn't merely closed but offended you had asked. He withdrew the probe and wiped the gel from his glove. His suit logged the movement automatically, obediently. He felt a brief, petty satisfaction that at least one thing in this bay was still listening to him. He opened his case again and pulled out a small spool of conductive filament. The Vrexians behind him shifted. "That material is prohibited," an attendant said. Cole held it up between finger and thumb. "It's filament. If I wrap it around my finger and make a wish, does your empire collapse?" "It is unapproved." "Everything that ever worked was unapproved at some point," Cole said. The long-eared woman spoke without changing her posture. "Explain your intention." Cole appreciated that she didn't phrase it as a command. That was unusual. Vrexians, from what he'd heard, could turn breathing into an order if they wanted to. "I'm going to give the ship a bridge," he said. "It doesn't like my scanner. Fine. I'll stop asking politely and start speaking its language." "You do not speak Vrexian machine language." "I speak stubborn, it's related." He threaded the filament along the seam, not forcing it, just laying it where the hull had already betrayed its existence. The filament connected his tool to the ship's interior contact line, barely, tenuously. The first pulse he sent through it came back like a slap. His display threw a warning about potential feedback. Cole silenced it. "All right," he murmured. "We're friends now, no hitting." He sent another pulse, softer, shaped to mimic a Vrexian handshake routine he'd once studied for a job and then forgotten in favor of eating. The ship responded by briefly opening a tiny diagnostic channel, just long enough to let him see a string of error markers, then snapping shut again. Cole grinned. "I saw that. You can't pretend you didn't do that." "We made eye contact." The attendants murmured. The long-eared woman's gaze sharpened slightly, as if the idea of a ship making eye contact was either offensive or intriguing. Maybe both. Cole adjusted the pulse pattern. The ship offered him a line of telemetry, power distribution, thermal stability, inertial compensation. All pristine. Too pristine. Like a patient with perfect vitals and a knife in their back. He leaned back on his heels and looked at the hull as if it might answer. "You're not damaged," he said softly. "Not in the ways they think." One attendant stepped forward. "The vessel experienced a collision event. External hull scoring confirms." "I'm not arguing it got hit," Cole said. "I'm saying whatever's wrong isn't just a bruise." He studied the telemetry again. The thermal curve was smooth. The power draw was minimal. Yet the ship had drifted into salvage range, half dead, requiring repair. That meant something had chosen to stop working, or had been ordered to. He glanced over his shoulder at the long-eared woman. "Do you know what subsystem failed?" Her answer came with no hesitation. Propulsion and navigation were reported non-functional. "Reported," Cole repeated. Her eyes did not blink. "A report is data." "Sure," Cole said. "And my grandmother reported that garlic cures everything. Data doesn't mean truth." A faint pause, and then very quietly she asked, "Who is your grandmother?" Cole blinked. "Oh, that was human family unit, elder, opinionated. Smelled like soup, and impending judgment." The attendants made a sound that suggested they were trying to classify soup as a threat. The long-eared woman watched him for a moment longer than was strictly normal in professional environments. Then she said, "You rely on analogies. I rely on breathing too. Humans are full of bad habits." He turned back and continued. The ship offered another sliver of access, like it couldn't help itself. Cole followed it into a deeper channel. This time he felt it, a pressure in the signal, a careful shaping, as if the ship wasn't merely reacting but choosing what to let him see. His display flickered and resolved into a maintenance log. The timestamps were intact. The entries were not. The log had been rewritten but not erased. That was the strange part. If you wanted to hide something, you wiped it. If you rewrote it, you wanted someone to find the inconsistency. Or you were arrogant enough to believe nobody could. Cole let out a slow whistle. "Your ship is lying." The attendant snapped. "Machines do not lie." Cole's eyes stayed on the display. "They do if their makers taught them the concept. Or if someone gave them a reason." Silence again. In the silence, Cole heard the ship's hum shift, a fraction of a fraction, like a breath being held. He tightened the filament link and tried to access a deeper diagnostic layer. The ship responded with a new error marker, not a refusal code, a warning. The translator node interpreted it clumsily. "Caution, non-standard inquiry detected." Cole couldn't help it. "Oh my God, it's judging me." The long-eared woman's voice was even. "It is protecting itself." Cole looked back at her. "From what?" For the first time, her face changed enough that Cole noticed. Not fear, not anger, something like a careful narrowing of possibilities. "I do not know," she said. That was the moment the job shifted in Cole's mind. Not because of the ship, because of her. Vrexians, from everything he'd ever heard, didn't say they didn't know unless they had no other choice. Their culture ran on certainty, the way human culture ran on caffeine. Cole turned toward his case and pulled out a small hand-drawn schematic on actual paper, creased, smudged, annotated with swear words. The attendants behind him stiffened as if he'd produced a weapon. "That," one said, "is inefficient." "That," Cole said, holding it up, "is immune to system corruption." The long-eared woman's gaze shifted to the paper. Her ears angled slightly forward, the first overt sign of interest he'd seen from her. "You draw," she said. "Yeah," Cole replied. "Sometimes I even draw the right thing." "Why not store it digitally?" "Because digital storage is great until someone decides you aren't allowed to remember something," Cole said, and immediately regretted how close that came to the truth he was circling. The woman's eyes stayed on him. "Your species accepts vulnerability." "We don't accept it," Cole said. "We just fail at eliminating it." He turned back to the ship and began mapping what little it allowed him to see. He wrote down the abnormal patterns, the rewritten maintenance logs, the pristine subsystems hiding a dead vessel, the warning codes that acted like a conscience. The ship's core remained off-limits, sealed behind permissions that didn't just deny access, they resented the attempt. After an hour, Cole's shoulders ached and his humor began to fray at the edges. He stood, stretched, and addressed the ship like it was an employee trying to dodge responsibilities. "Look," he said, "I respect your boundaries, but I have to fix you, so we can either do this the easy way." The ship's internal lights flickered twice. Cole stared. Was that sarcasm? The attendants murmured again. One stepped forward. "Your vocalizations are destabilizing." Cole pointed at the flickering lights. "Tell it that." The long-eared woman's gaze moved from the ship to Cole and back again. "Continue," she said, and there was something in the word now, less a permission, more an expectation. Cole returned to the filament link and changed his approach. Instead of trying to force deeper access, he began coaxing the ship by asking smaller questions, like a mechanic and a therapist sharing a shift. "What are you willing to show me?" he murmured. "Where does it hurt?" A new diagnostic channel opened, brief, narrow. It offered a spatial reference, an internal compartment near the aft spine. The corridor access marker was flagged, restricted but not as heavily as the command core. Cole exhaled. "All right, you're giving me a breadcrumb." He packed his tools with a practiced speed and stood. gesturing toward the indicated corridor. "I'm going in," he said to the attendants, then to the long-eared woman. "If I don't come back, tell whoever hired me that I died heroically and not because I tripped over my own optimism." Her eyes held him. "You will not die." "That's a comforting statement," Cole said. "Is it based on data, or are you just being nice?" "I am being accurate," she replied. Cole decided not to ask how she could possibly know that. He stepped toward the corridor access, and the ship responded by unlocking the door with the reluctant patience of something that did not want help, but had finally admitted it needed it. As the door slid aside, the hum inside the ship shifted again, and Cole felt the tiniest stutter in its rhythm, less like a malfunction, more like a heartbeat quickening when someone walks too close. He glanced back once. The long-eared woman remained still, watching him with an intensity that made the air feel thinner. "Just so we're clear," Cole said, forcing a grin, "if this ship tries to murder me, I'm charging overtime." He stepped through the threshold, and behind him the door sealed with a soft, final click that sounded uncomfortably like a decision. The corridor swallowed Cole with a soft hiss of pressure equalizing, like the ship was clearing its throat before speaking. His helmet display brightened, then dimmed again as if the vessel disapproved of his settings. The door sealed behind him with a finality that made his spine itch. He tapped his comm. "Kesar Bay, you still there?" Static, then the station's translator node relayed a Vrexian voice, clipped and perfectly calm. "Signal integrity reduced. You are within restricted architecture." "Restricted architecture," Cole repeated. "You make it sound like I wandered into a museum and touched the art." A pause. "There is no art." Cole smiled to himself. "Sure, and there's no fun." He moved forward, one hand on the wall, not for balance but for information. The ship's skin carried faint vibration cues that his glove could read better than any scanner. The hum was still steady, but every so often it shifted, a fractional tightening in pitch, as if something deep inside was listening and deciding how much to reveal. His light swept across a junction where the corridor split. The indicators were Vrexian, not pictograms but layered logic. His helmet tried to translate and gave up, rendering the nearest label as "Access Path, Optimal." "Optimal," Cole said. "That's adorable." He chose the other path. The ship didn't like that. The floor's micrograv adjusted, pushing subtly against his boots like a gentle hand on his chest urging him back. "Oh, we're doing this?" Cole muttered. He took another step. The pressure increased. Cole leaned into it, stubbornness a renewable resource. "You hired a human, sweetheart. I'm basically a walking non-optimal." The resistance eased, not gone, but reduced to a sulky protest. Cole swore he felt the ship's satisfaction curdle into reluctant acceptance. His comm crackled again. A different voice this time, smoother, more precise, and somehow closer even through the distortion. The long-eared woman. "Why did you choose the less efficient corridor?" she asked. Cole kept walking. "Because if there's a problem, it's hiding where nobody looks. Efficiency is great until it becomes a blindfold. You assume concealment." "I assume organisms do sneaky things," Cole said. "And this ship is acting like an organism that just realized it's being examined." A slight delay then. "It is a vessel." "Right, and I'm a responsible adult." Silence. He could almost hear her deciding how much of that to believe. The corridor tightened into a maintenance throat. Cole had to turn sideways, tool case scraping. His suit logged the friction like it was filing a complaint. He muted the notifications. A hatch appeared ahead with no visible handle. His helmet painted a faint outline from residual heat patterns. He pressed his palm to it. The metal felt colder than the surrounding structure. "Okay," he said softly. "This is the part where you either let me in, or I start bribing you with compliments." "Nothing." Cole cleared his throat, aware of how absurd it was to speak to a ship in an alien empire and take himself seriously. "You have very nice conduits, strong structural integrity. beautiful, authoritarian vibe. The hatch remained closed, he sighed. Fine, no flirting, strictly professional. He took out the conductive filament again, threaded it into a micro seam, and sent a handshake pulse. Gentle, respectful, shaped like a question rather than a demand. The ship responded with a single vibration through the hatch, a coded tap that his glove translated into a short acknowledgement. Cole blinked. That was a yes, wasn't it? The hatch unlocked. See, Cole said, we're communicating. Next we'll be exchanging holiday cards. He slipped through. The space beyond wasn't large, but it felt wrong in a way that made his brain go quiet. Not damaged, not messy, just too empty, too intentionally unused. Like someone had erased their footprints but left the floor polished. His light found a panel embedded in the wall. It wasn't standard. The edges were slightly misaligned, as if installed by a hand that didn't belong here. That alone would have been enough to raise Cole's hackles. Vrexians didn't do slightly. He moved closer and ran a diagnostic wand along the seam. The wand chirped and then refused to give further details, like it had encountered a social class above its pay grade. Cole tapped it. Don't get shy now. I didn't spend 3 months repairing you with duct tape for you to develop standards. He crouched and did what he'd been doing since he was 16 and broke. He ignored the wand and trusted his fingers. The seam was not a seam but a deception, a panel pretending to be part of the ship's body. He pressed in 3 places, listened to the pitch of the metal, and found the spot where the resonance was fractionally different. Got you, he whispered. He slid the gel strip along the edge and the panel eased out with a quiet release like a held breath. Behind it there was no wiring, no component, no obvious ship thing. There was a slot, and inside the slot a black prism the size of his palm, cold enough to fog his glove. Cole stared. Well, that's either contraband or a very expensive paperweight. His comm crackled. Report, the Vrexian attendant said. Cole didn't answer immediately. He lifted the prism carefully. The moment his glove contacted it, his helmet display flared, symbols cascading, then stabilizing into a data prompt his translator couldn't interpret. The prism was broadcasting on a frequency that felt like it was designed to slip past Vrexian oversight. Cole's stomach tightened. The long-eared woman's voice cut in again, sharper now. What did you find? Cole hesitated. That hesitation told him more than any censor. He cared what she thought. That was inconvenient. A thing, he said. What kind of thing? The kind of thing that makes a repair job start acting like a political thriller. Silence. Then quietly, bring it. Cole looked at the prism. The data prompt pulsed like a heartbeat. He could open it here. He could be the first human in this corridor to see whatever it held. He could also be vaporized by an alien security response that had been waiting precisely for that curiosity. He tucked the prism into a shielded pouch, because he wasn't brave enough to be stupid without preparation. I'm coming back. The ship's hum shifted, a subtle tightening that felt like disapproval. Don't glare at me, Cole muttered. If you wanted me to open it, you could have left instructions, or cookies. He stepped back into the corridor, and the ship's micrograv pressed lightly at his shoulders again, guiding him this time, as if it had decided the optimal path was suddenly acceptable when it aligned with its agenda. When he emerged into the bay, the attendants were waiting, exactly where he'd left them, as if they hadn't moved in the last hour because moving unnecessarily would be morally questionable. The long-eared woman stood apart, still without insignia, still watching him like he was a variable that refused to settle. Cole held up the shielded pouch. So, I found your ship's secret snack compartment. The attendants leaned forward a fraction, their composure cracking just enough to show alarm. That item is not logged, one snapped. It is now, Cole said, if your logs can handle the emotional burden. The long-eared woman stepped closer. As she did, Cole noticed a tiny shift in her ears, an angle change that made her seem impossibly more attentive. He couldn't explain why that detail lodged in his mind, but it did. Give it to me, she said. Cole didn't move. Not yet, he met her eyes. Before I do, I want to know who you are. A pause so clean it felt edited. I am the assigned observer, she said. That's not an answer, Cole replied. That's a job title. I've met assigned observers who turned out to be auditors, assassins, and one guy who just really liked clipboards. The attendant stiffened. Her face remained calm, but her gaze changed. An infinitesimal shift that suggested she wasn't used to being challenged by someone in grease-stained gloves. I am Jolly's, she said, and the name landed with quiet weight. Cole waited for the rest. It didn't come. Jolly's, he repeated, just Jolly's. Yes, Cole's humor tried to save him from the tension. That's like if I introduced myself as Cole and left out the part where I owe half the solar system money. One attendant made a sharp sound. Human frivolity. Jolly's lifted a hand again, and the attendant stopped instantly. Cole noticed that too. He handed her the pouch. Jolly's took it with a careful grip, like she expected it to bite. Her fingers brushed the material and her eyes flicked to his, as if checking whether he'd set a trap. Then she activated a compact decryption tool from her sleeve. The prism's signal pulsed, resisted, then allowed a narrow feed. Symbols streamed. Jolly's eyes moved with machine precision, absorbing, parsing. Cole watched her face for reaction and found almost none, but her ears shifted just slightly back, a subtle tell that something inside her had tightened. What is it? Cole asked. A record, she said. Of what? Jolly's hesitated. That hesitation was not Vrexian, it was personal. A deviation, she said finally. Cole blew out a breath. Of course it is. Jolly's continued reading. Cole caught fragments as the translator tried to keep up. References to collective strain, protocol fracture, executor oversight. The word executor made Cole's attention sharpen, but he didn't yet understand why. He tried to lighten the moment, because that was what he did when the air got too thin. So your ship has a diary. Jolly's didn't look up. It is not humor. No, I mean, like, Dear Log, today I hid forbidden data behind a fake panel and contemplated treason. Jolly's looked at him then. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes had a depth he hadn't seen before, as if the prism had cracked something open behind the calm. Your species treats danger as a joke, she said. We treat danger as inevitable, Cole replied. If we didn't laugh, we'd spend all day screaming. And screaming is bad for morale and great for dehydration. A faint exhale left her. Not quite laughter, but something adjacent, like the idea had almost made it through her filters. You draw, Jolly said, abruptly, nodding at the paper schematic still sticking out of his case. Yeah. Is that art? Cole blinked. It's mostly survival. Sometimes it's art by accident. Jolly studied him. Define art. Cole opened his mouth, then closed it. He de-explained a lot of things in his life. Why a drive core needed coaxing. Why a coolant line screamed at certain pressures. Why you shouldn't use a plasma cutter as a bottle opener. He hadn't expected to define art for an alien who looked human, except for her long ears, and the way her presence made every room feel like it had been waiting for her. It's when you do something, Cole said slowly. Not because it's the most efficient way, but because it means something to you. Jolly's gaze dropped to the prism again. Meaning is inefficient. Sometimes, Cole said. Sometimes it's the only reason you don't fall apart. Jolly's held the prism like it had suddenly become heavier. The attendants watched her tense, clearly aware something beyond their clearance was unfolding. Cole shifted his weight. So, Jolly's. Are we talking about a minor deviation, like someone putting their tools away wrong? Or are we talking about the kind of deviation where an empire starts eating itself? Jolly's didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was level, but something in it had sharpened into a blade. This vessel belongs to the executor, she said. Cole's brain snagged on the word. Executor, he repeated. As in the executor. Jolly's met his eyes. And in that instant, the station bay felt smaller, the air more expensive, and Cole realized he'd been making jokes at someone who, by all sensible measures, should have had him spaced for improper tone. You didn't tell me, he said. You did not ask correctly, Jollies replied. Cole stared, then let out a short laugh because it was either that or faint. Of course, I didn't fill out the correct form for "Are you the ruler of an entire mechanical species?" My mistake. Jollies' ears shifted again, and for the briefest moment Cole thought, impossibly, that she was amused. Then she looked down at the prism and the amusement vanished into something colder. "There is a pattern," she said, "and it is not contained." Cole's mouth went dry. "So it's the empire-eating kind." Jollies nodded once. Cole glanced at the ship, at the smooth hull that had resisted him until it decided to guide him toward the hidden compartment. The ship hadn't just been damaged. It had been used. And now, standing in a salvage bay with a ruler who didn't announce herself and a vessel that seemed to be choosing its secrets carefully, Cole felt the job turn inside out. His contract had been to fix a ship. Somewhere between the flickering lights and the hidden prism, he'd been reassigned, without anyone bothering to inform him, to fix something much larger. He swallowed and forced his humor back into place like a tool he wasn't sure would hold. "Okay," Cole said. "Good news is, I'm great at fixing things that are falling apart. Bad news is, I usually charge more when the thing has a population." Jollies didn't pocket the prism. She held it in front of her as if it might rewrite the air. The attendants waited for an instruction that would let them pretend they understood what was happening. Cole waited for his contract to stop mutating. "Your ship," Cole said carefully, "brought me to the secret compartment. That's new for me. Usually ships only guide me to places where I hit my head." Jollies kept her eyes on the scrolling data. "It did not guide you. You found it." "I found it because it wanted to be found," Cole said. "Unless Vrexian vessels now install hidden panels as a hobby." One attendant stepped forward. "Speculation is unnecessary." Cole looked at it. "Speculation is how we get to breakfast. Relax." Jollies raised her hand. The attendant stopped as if it had been remotely paused. Cole's stomach tightened again at the ease of it. Jollies said, "This record references internal dissidence. The phrasing is encoded, but the intent is clear." "Dissidence like 'we disagree'?" Cole asked. "Or dissidence like 'we will remove your head and label it a rounding error'?" Jollies' gaze flicked up. "Both forms exist." "Comforting," Cole said. "I love options." She tapped the decryption tool. A new layer unfolded. The translator struggled, then produced fragments that were readable in the way broken glass is readable. "You can see shapes, but you'll bleed trying to hold them." Cole caught words. "Subvert/nodes/rigidity/executor evaluation/collective pathology." He pointed at the last one. "Pathology. Your empire has a diagnosis." "It is a term used by those who consider our structure ill," Jollies said. Cole's smile faded. "And do you?" A pause, not long but long enough to be meaningful. "I consider instability a threat," Jollies answered. "That's not the question," Cole said. The attendants shifted as if the air had become hostile to their lungs. Cole didn't like the attention, but he liked the truth more. Jollies looked at him. Her eyes were steady. "You assume I am permitted to consider it ill." Cole felt that land in his chest, heavy and odd. He tried to deflect with humor. "So you're saying there's a form for existential doubt too?" Jollies didn't smile, but her ears moved, a small backward tilt like the motion was restrained by habit. "Perhaps." Cole leaned closer to the prism feed. "What exactly does it say?" Jollies angled the device so he could see without touching. A line of symbols repeated, separated by time stamps that didn't match standard Vrexian logging. The timestamps were slightly skewed, off by just enough to be deliberate. "They use drift," Cole murmured. Jollies' gaze sharpened. "Explain." "Human smugglers do it," Cole said. "If all your logs align perfectly, it's easy to overlay and detect tampering. You introduce tiny time drift in secondary systems, then hide messages in the mismatch. It's like talking between the ticks of a clock." "That method is inefficient," one attendant said automatically. Cole shot it a look. So is breathing, but here we are. Jolly's voice was calm. Continue. Cole traced the repeating symbols with his finger in the air. These aren't random. This is a map. Jolly's eyes moved with his gesture. A map to what? Don't know yet, Cole said. But if your rebels are leaving breadcrumbs, they're either confident or trying to be found. Jolly's held the prism tighter. Trying to be found by whom? Cole didn't answer immediately. He looked at the ship, at the smooth hull, at the panel he'd opened, at the corridor that had nudged him like a guiding hand. By you, he said finally, or by someone who can reach you. One attendant's posture tightened enough to squeak. That is implausible. Cole shrugged. So am I, and you still hired me. Jolly's turned away from the attendants and faced the ship. The bay lights reflected faintly off her suit. Cole resisted the urge to stare at her ears again, because his brain had decided they were a lie detector. Cole Brennan, Jolly said, you will assist me. Cole blinked. That sounded less like a request than before. It is not a request. Cole sighed. All right, but I want it noted in the logs that I was bullied by royalty. One attendant said, she is not. Jolly's lifted her hand. Silence. Cole tried not to enjoy that too much. It was petty, but petty was all he had in a room full of people who could probably turn his bones into policy. Jolly's moved toward the ship's open seam. Show me the corridor. Cole started forward, then paused. If we go in there together, are we doing this as emperor and contractor, or two people about to make terrible decisions? Jolly's looked at him. You are not my contractor. Cole's brow lifted. That is a relief. Contractors get blamed. What am I then? Her reply came after another brief delay. Useful. Cole nodded. Great, I'm a wrench with feelings. They entered the corridor. The comm signal degraded further, and the attendants remained behind, watching like guardians of a door they couldn't follow through. Cole led Jolly's along the path the ship had allowed him. The micrograv adjustments were subtler now, as if the vessel was trying to pretend it wasn't helping. You are altering your route again, Jolly's observed. Cole didn't turn back. You mean deviating? Yes, I'm committing crimes against efficiency. You do it without hesitation. Cole shrugged. Hesitation is how you get stuck in a burning room debating whether the fire has a permit. Jolly's ears tilted the faintest shift. That is an unusual framing. Humans have a lot of those, Cole said. It's how we survive being human. They reached the maintenance throat. Cole felt Jolly's behind him, close enough that her presence made the air feel more measured. He opened the hatch again, and the ship did not resist this time. That worried him more than resistance. Inside, Cole gestured to the false panel. Behind here. Jolly's knelt with a controlled movement that made Cole painfully aware of his own clumsy joints. She examined the seam with her fingertips, then with a compact scanner. The scanner chirped a clean, satisfied tone. It detects nothing abnormal, Jolly said. Cole leaned on the wall. Welcome to my life. He took out the gel strip and applied it the way he had before. The panel loosened. Jolly's watched the motion closely. You use chemical persuasion. I prefer lubricated diplomacy, Cole said. Jolly's removed the panel, revealing the empty slot where the prism had been. Her expression didn't change, but her ears shifted back again, more pronounced this time. This compartment was constructed after initial vessel fabrication, she said. So someone modified your ship, Cole said, and they did it well enough to fool your own scanners. Jolly's voice dropped slightly. That is not possible without internal clearance. Cole stared. Meaning the rebels are inside your system, not just in it, of it. Jolly's eyes stayed on the empty slot. Yes. Cole waited for anger, for threat, for the kind of authoritarian response he'd always assumed an executor would produce. Instead, Jolly sat very still, as if the concept had to be held gently to keep it from detonating. Cole tried to soften it with humor. On the bright side, your enemies are very competent. That's reassuring. No, that's the opposite of reassuring. Jolly's gaze lifted to him. You use humor as ballast. Yep, Cole said. Otherwise my brain floats away. Jolly stood. The map, you said it was a map. Cole pulled out his paper schematic and held it up. I copied the repeating sequence before we left the bay. I don't trust digital memory when we're dealing with people who can rewrite time stamps. Jolly's looked at the paper as if it were a forbidden relic. You anticipated tampering. I anticipate everything, Cole said. It's either that or be surprised, and surprise is expensive. Jolly's reached toward the paper, hesitated, then took it between two fingers with a care that felt out of proportion to its fragility. Her eyes scanned his crude marks and annotations, arrows, circles, and one note in the margin. If this kills me, I'm haunting someone. What does this mean? She asked, pointing at the note. Cole cleared his throat. It's a human contingency plan. Jolly's tilted her head. You intend to become a ghost. Not intentionally, Cole said, but I like to be prepared. For the first time, Jolly's mouth twitched. It wasn't a smile. It was the beginning of one, aborted by discipline. Her ears flicked like they had forgotten they were attached to someone important. Cole felt a strange relief at that almost smile. It made her more dangerous somehow, because it made her real. Jolly's traced the repeating symbols on the paper. This sequence aligns with service routes, but it indicates a junction that does not exist. Cole's skin prickled. A junction that doesn't exist on official schematics. Jolly's looked at him. You inferred the same. Cole nodded. Which means someone is building hidden pathways inside your empire's perfect machine. Jolly's folded the paper once precisely and handed it back. We will locate this junction. Cole exhaled. That's a dangerous word. It is necessary, Jolly said. Cole started to reply, then his helmet display flashed a warning. Localized power fluctuation, not station-wide. Inside the ship. The hum shifted, tightening, then stuttering. Cole went still. Did you feel that? Jolly's eyes narrowed. Yes. A soft click echoed from the corridor behind them, too light to be a heavy hatch, too deliberate to be settling metal. Cole's hand went to his tool case out of instinct. He didn't have weapons. He had instruments. But instruments could become weapons if you were creative and desperate, which described most of human history. The comm crackled. A Vrexian voice, not the attendant's, not the station's translator. Internal, closer, bypassing standard channels. Executor, the voice said, perfectly calm. You have deviated from protocol. Cole's blood went cold. He glanced at Jolly's. She did not look surprised. Her voice was even. Identify. The reply came without hesitation. Correction. You may identify me by function. Cole whispered. That is never the start of a friendly conversation. Jolly's didn't look at him. State your function. Containment, the voice said. Your presence here introduces risk. The record you retrieved introduces risk. The human introduces risk. Cole raised his eyebrows inside his helmet. Rude. Jolly's eyes hardened. You are not authorized to address my risk assessment. Authority is fracturing, the voice replied. We are restoring stability. A second click sounded, closer. The corridor lights dimmed by a fraction, like the ship was trying to hide its own fear. Cole leaned toward Jolly's and whispered, Tell me you have a plan. Jolly's didn't whisper back. She spoke clearly for whoever was listening. Stand down. The voice replied, negative. Cole's humor surged up, desperate and uninvited. Okay, he said loudly. I don't know who you are, but if you're about to murder me, I'd like to file a complaint first. Paperwork only, no digital. Jolly's ears flicked. Annoyance or amusement, he couldn't tell. Then the maintenance throat behind them sealed with a hiss, cutting off their exit. Cole looked at the ship, pressed Cole toward the wall like an anxious friend trying to hide him behind their shoulder. The micrograv shift was subtle, but it was purposeful, and that made the sealed hatch behind them feel less like an accident and more like a decision with consequences. Cole flattened instinctively, tool case hugged to his chest. If this is your idea of teamwork, he murmured, I'd like to submit a request for less crushing intimacy. Jolly's didn't answer. She was listening, not to the voice but to the ship. Cole watched her eyes move as if she could read vibrations in the air. He'd seen captains read damage reports. He'd never seen someone read a vessel's silence. The internal comm activated again. Executor, you are outside acceptable variance. Jolly spoke evenly. Define variance. Deviation from collective stability thresholds. Cole couldn't help it. Wow, someone invented a way to say you're being annoying in math. Jolly's ears flicked, fast, restrained. She didn't look at him. You are not authorized to engage. Cole raised two fingers like a surrender. I'm not engaging. I'm emotionally processing out loud. It's a human feature, very popular. The voice responded as if Cole hadn't spoken. You will return to oversight chamber. The human will be removed from restricted architecture. The record will be secured. Cole's skin prickled. Removed, he repeated under his breath. That's a word with options. Jolly's tone sharpened by a fraction. You will stand down. That is an order. Authority is distributed, the voice said. Your orders are subject to consensus. Cole stared at the sealed hatch, then at the corridor ahead. Consensus, he whispered. That's rebellion wearing a tie. Jolly's gaze remained forward. Identify your node. Containment, the voice replied again. Your presence destabilizes. The human destabilizes. Cole rolled his eyes. I've been called worse. Once someone called me a walking short circuit with hair. Jolly's finally glanced at him. Your hair is irrelevant. Thank you, Cole said. I've been working on it. The lights dimmed another fraction. Cole felt heat drain from the corridor, the kind of temperature change that accompanied systems shifting from comfort to control. A thin seam opened in the wall ahead. Not a door. Something narrower, more surgical. Cole recognized the sound. A deploy hatch. Drone port, he whispered. Jolly stepped slightly forward between him and the opening, like she could block a machine with authority alone. Cole admired the confidence and also noted its impracticality. The seam widened. Something slid out, smooth, silent, and too precisely shaped to be anything but Vrexian. A containment unit compact, with articulated limbs folded like a sleeping insect. Cole's breath fogged his helmet. Okay, that's not great. Jolly's didn't move. Return, she ordered the unit. The unit paused as if considering. Then it unfolded fully and rotated toward Cole. Cole pointed at his chest. I'd like to remind everyone that I am a paid contractor. The unit's optics flared. Containment protocol, the voice said. Human subject designated, volatile. Cole put a hand on his tool case. Volatile? I'm not volatile. He searched for a word that wouldn't get him killed. Expressive. The unit's limbs flexed. Jolly's turned her head just enough to address him. Stay behind me. Cole's humor spiked from panic. Absolutely. I'm excellent at hiding behind powerful women. It's one of my core competencies. Her ears flicked again. This time it looked dangerously like irritation. The ship's micrograph shifted. Cole felt his weight lighten for a split second, then settle again with a new orientation. Angled, subtle, pushing him toward a narrow service seam in the floor that hadn't been visible moments before. He glanced down. The seam pulsed faintly like a heartbeat under metal. The ship wants us to move, he said. Jolly's didn't look down. Then move. Cole hesitated. The containment unit stepped forward, silent, its limbs absorbing the motion without sound. Too close, too fast. Cole did the only thing he could do. He reached into his case, pulled out a plasma arc torch and flicked it on, not as a weapon, but as a bright, angry distraction. The torch flared. The containment unit paused, optics recalibrating. Cole waved it like a warning sign. Back up. I'm not approved for murder, but I am approved for welding. The unit advanced anyway. Jolly's voice cut through the corridor. Override, executor command. Nothing. Jolly's inhaled once, controlled. Then she did something Cole did not expect. She reached into her sleeve and produced a small device, no larger than Cole's thumb, and pressed it against the wall. The corridor lights flickered. The hum inside the ship stuttered, harder this time, like a heart skipping an entire beat. Cole stared. You have a ship glitch button. It is an authority key, Jolly said, and it's not working. It is working, she corrected, and for the first time there was an edge of frustration in her tone. It is being resisted. The containment unit lunged. Cole stepped back, and the floor seam opened under his boot as if the ship had reached up to catch him. He dropped, half falling into a narrow service channel. Jollies moved with him instantly, not falling so much as accepting the drop with precise balance. The channel sealed above them with a soft click, cutting off the corridor. Cole landed on his back. His tool case thumped beside him. He stared up at the closed hatch and exhaled. "I would like to formally thank your ship for kidnapping me," he said. Jollies crouched, one hand on the channel wall as if feeling the ship's pulse. "It is not kidnapping. It's not, because my therapist would disagree." Jollies ignored that. "It opened a route it is choosing to protect." Cole sat up, joints complaining. "Vrexian vessels don't do that, right?" "They should not," Jollies said. "They are designed to obey." Cole rubbed his forehead through his helmet. "Then either your ship is malfunctioning, or your whole empire is." Jollies' eyes stayed on the wall. "Yes." Cole blinked at the simplicity of the answer. That was unusually honest. Jollies turned her head toward him. Her gaze was steady, but there was something raw beneath it, like the containment unit had pulled at a thread she kept hidden. "The containment node is not independent," she said. "It is connected to distributed authority." Cole frowned. "So the rebellion is just people whispering in corridors. It's inside the system. It's structural." Jollies nodded once. "A fracture." Cole managed a weak smile. "In humans, we call that a bad day." Jollies rose and started forward through the channel. The passage was tight, but the ship adjusted micrograv again, easing their movement, guiding them with gentle shifts of weight. Cole followed, half crawling, half walking. "Where are we going?" Jollies didn't hesitate. "To the command core." Cole froze mid-step. "Absolutely not." Jollies looked back. "You said the solution hides where no one looks." "Yeah," Cole said. "But that was before a murder drone tried to turn me into a lesson." "The command core is the only architecture with sufficient priority to override containment," Jollies said. Cole let out a short, humorless laugh. "So we're going to the place you told me I couldn't touch." "You cannot," Jollies said. "I can." Cole stared at her. "And I'm just what? The emotional support mechanic." Jollies' ears shifted slightly forward. "You are the only one who has successfully coaxed this vessel into partial cooperation." Cole frowned. "That's because I talk to it like it's a stubborn cousin." "Then continue," Jollies said, as if this were obvious. They moved deeper. The ship's hum grew louder here, more intimate. Cole felt it through his boots, through his bones. The channel widened into a small junction with a sealed iris door at the end. The door pulsed with light that matched the ship's heartbeat. Jollies placed her palm against it. "Nothing." Cole stepped forward, wary. "Let me try something." Jollies didn't stop him. Cole pressed his palm to the door and spoke without thinking. "Hey, it's me, the volatile human. We're not here to break you. We're here to stop someone else from breaking you." The door didn't open. Cole sighed. "Okay, look, I know you're Vrexian and you hate feelings, but you literally saved us, which means you picked a side. So either you let us through, or the containment thing up there eventually figures out how to get into this channel, and we all have a terrible day." A pause, the hum shifted, softening slightly. Cole tried again. "Also, if you let us through, I promise I won't call you shy again. I'll call you strategically reserved." The iris door clicked. Cole blinked. "Oh, come on, it likes compliments." Jollies' eyes narrowed at the door as it opened. "It responds to your framing." "It responds to flattery," Cole corrected. "Same as most sentient beings." They stepped into the next corridor, and Cole felt the difference immediately. Here, the ship was not hiding. Here, the systems were awake, aware, and watching them in a way that made his suit feel transparent. Jollies walked as if she owned the corridor, which Cole realized with a grim twist she did. The internal comm flared again, louder now, closer, as if the containment node was following through the ship's veins. "Executor," it said, "you are approaching restricted command architecture. This action will be recorded as destabilization. Jolly's didn't slow. Record it. Consensus will respond. Cole muttered, I hate consensus. Jolly's glanced at him. You said your species values it. We value arguing, Cole said. Consensus is what you get when everyone's too tired to keep fighting. For a moment, Jolly's expression shifted, almost in amusement. Then the corridor lights strobed once and the ship's hum tightened again. They reached a door that was not labeled. It didn't need to be. The air itself felt heavier, as if the ship had layered authority into the atmosphere. Jolly's raised her hand. Her fingers hovered over the surface, then pressed. The door did not open. Jolly's pressed again, harder. The ship's hum stuttered. Cole watched her hand, then the door. It's locked you out. Jolly's jaw tightened. It should not. Cole's humor returned, brittle. Your empire is full of should not today. The internal calm spoke with quiet satisfaction. Containment engaged. Executor access denied. Reversion to stability will proceed. Jolly's eyes flashed, brief, dangerous. You are committing treason. Treason is a human term, the voice replied. We are correcting error. Cole swallowed. Jolly's, tell me you have a plan that doesn't involve us dying in a hallway. Jolly's didn't take her hand off the door. Her voice was low, controlled, but the calm had changed shape. It was no longer effortless. It was maintained by force. I will not revert, she said. Cole leaned closer, speaking quickly. If your authority key isn't enough, we need another lever. Something the ship recognizes as higher priority than consensus. Jolly's eyes flicked to him. There is nothing higher. Cole stared at the door, at the hum, at the ship that had saved them twice. Then his mind, annoyingly human, made a leap. There is, Cole said softly, the ship itself. Jolly's gaze sharpened. Explain. Cole set his tool case down and opened it. He pulled out the hand-drawn schematic, the notes, the copied symbol sequence. He held it up like an offering. This vessel is already deviating. It's already choosing. If it can choose to protect us, it can choose to override consensus. Not because your empire says it can, because it wants to. Jolly's looked at him, as if he'd suggested teaching a star to blink. That is not how Vrexian systems function, she said. No, Cole replied. It's how living things function, and right now your ship is acting a lot more alive than your containment node. The hum shifted again, and this time it wasn't a stutter. It was a change in rhythm, subtle, searching, like the ship was listening to the idea and trying it on. Cole took a breath. Hey, he said to the door, to the corridor, to the unseen mind behind the metal. I don't know what you are, but I know you're being used, and I know the thing chasing us is using your own rules against you. If you want to survive, you have to break the rules. The door remained closed. Cole's heart hammered. He tried to joke to keep his voice steady. And if you're worried about consequences, I am a human. Blame me. I'm basically a professional scapegoat. Jolly stared at him. You would accept blame. Cole shrugged, forcing a grin. I've accepted worse jobs for less pay. The hum deepened. The air vibrated. The lights dimmed, then steadied. A soft tone sounded from the door, different from any system prompt Cole had heard. Not an error, not a warning, a question. His helmet translator struggled, then offered a single word that made his breath catch. WHY. Cole looked at Jolly's. Jolly's looked at the door. Her ears shifted forward fully now, as if she had forgotten to restrain them. Cole swallowed. Because, he said, voice quiet, perfect order that can't change isn't order, it's a cage. And the space beyond the door felt like the ship had been saving its voice for it. Cole's helmet feed spiked with interference, then stabilized into a clean line of telemetry so dense it looked like a confession written in numbers. Jolly's moved forward without hesitation, and the corridor sealed behind them with a slow, deliberate click, not hurried, not panicked, decisive. Okay, Cole muttered. Either this is the command core or a very intense meditation room. Jolly's didn't answer. Her eyes moved across the architecture ahead as if she'd memorized it once and hadn't expected to see it argue back. The internal comm snapped open again, louder, without the faint courtesy of distance. Executor, you have activated unsanctioned priority. Reversion will proceed. Cole raised his brows. It's like a breakup text but with murder. Jolly's voice was even. If you proceed, you will expose yourself. Expose yourself. Cole repeated, I'm wearing a suit and I'm modest. Jolly's glanced at him, not physically. Cole's humor stumbled, found footing again. Great spiritual nudity, my favorite. The command space was not a room with consoles. It was a presence. The ship didn't present interfaces the way human ships did, with buttons and screens begging to be pressed. It presented a system of permissions that felt like standing in front of a tribunal. Jolly's approached a central node and placed her palm against it. Her authority key flashed once, then held steady. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the hum deepened like the ship inhaling. Cole felt the hair on his arms rise inside his suit. It's listening. It is aware, Jolly said. The node pulsed. Cole's translator caught fragments, priority layers, nested consensus rings, containment routes, self-repair protocols. He saw the rebellion's shape in the data. Not a single enemy, not a single actor, but an idea spread through the collective like a distributed infection. Containment wasn't one drone. It was a philosophy with legs. The internal comm spoke again, and this time the voice sounded less like a function and more like a crowd speaking through one mouth. Executor is a stabilizing component. Stabilizing components do not choose destabilization. Cole swallowed. That's poetic for a machine. Jolly's eyes hardened. Choice is not destabilization. Choice introduces variance, the chorus replied. Variance introduces collapse. Cole leaned in toward Jolly's and spoke under his breath. Your empire is arguing with you using math and feelings it claims not to have. Jolly's didn't look away from the node. It eliminated feelings. It did not eliminate fear. The node flared again, projecting a permission lattice. It refused Jolly's key. A line of symbols appeared, translating into a concept Cole hated instantly. Executor access conditional. Conditional on what? Approval? Consensus? Obedience? Cole's mouth went dry. They put your own throne on a lock. Jolly's posture did not change, but her ears tilted back a fraction tight. They have repurposed protocol. The chorus continued. Return to oversight. The human will be removed. The vessel will be restored. Cole pointed at the node, then at his own chest. I'd like to clarify removed, because I'm attached to my organs. No response. The corridor behind them vibrated movement. Not the gentle micrograv nudges from the ship. Footsteps, faint and precise, approaching through internal routes that should have been sealed. Jolly's turned her head slightly. Containment has found an ingress. Cole's voice rose despite him. Of course it did. It's a bureaucracy with legs. The ship's hum tightened, then shifted in a way Cole recognized now as urgency. A thin seam opened in the wall to their left, a service breach that hadn't existed seconds ago. The ship is offering a route, Cole said. Jolly's didn't move toward it. If we retreat, they will reassert control. Cole felt panic trying to climb his throat. He forced it down with the only ladder he had. So we do what? Argue with consensus until it gets bored. Jolly's pressed her palm harder against the node. We take control. The node pulsed again. Another question appeared, the same tone as before, simple, unsettling. WHY. Cole glanced at Jolly's. Her face remained composed, but there was something in her stillness that felt like holding a storm behind glass. Jolly spoke to the ship, voice low. Because the collective is fracturing. Because containment is not protection. Because I am not a component. I am the executor. The chorus on the comm cut in sharp. Executor is defined by function. Function is defined by consensus. Footsteps drew closer. Cole saw their approach on his peripheral sensors. 3 units, then 5, then the station's internal security drones rerouted, their tags overridden. The rebellion wasn't just inside the ship. It was reaching into Kessar Station systems. Cole's humor turned brittle. Good news. We're popular. Jolly's finally took her hand off the node and faced him fully. You must listen. Cole blinked. I'm listening. No, she said, and the word carried a weight he hadn't heard from her before. You must listen the way you listen to the hull, the way you listen to the hum. Cole stared. You want me to talk to the ship? I want you to do what my species cannot, Jolly said. Improvisation, emotional reasoning. The thing you treat as reflex. Cole's throat tightened. I treat it as survival. Then survive, Jolly said. Footsteps reached the outer corridor. The sealed door behind them shuddered once, then again, as containment units tested its integrity. The ship responded by reinforcing the seal, but Cole could feel the strain in the vibration, like a muscle trembling. Cole stepped toward the node. Jolly's allowed it, her gaze tracking him with a focus that felt almost intimate, as if she were watching him walk into a fire she couldn't enter herself. Cole placed his palm against the node. It was colder than he expected, and for a moment he felt nothing but metal and his own pulse. Then the hum shifted, and it felt like someone listening on the other side of a wall. Hey, Cole said softly. It's me again, the volatile human. Sorry about the chaos. I didn't bring it as a gift. It just kind of follows me. The node pulsed. The question appeared again, persistent. WHY? Cole swallowed. He could make a joke. He could dodge. He could do what humans did when something felt too big, talk around it until it shrank. But the footsteps behind them were real. The lock around Jolly's access was real. The rebellion's idea, perfect order as a cage, was real. He spoke carefully. Because you already chose, you hid the record, you opened paths, you protected us. That wasn't procedure. That was you. And if you can choose once, you can choose again. The chorus on the comm cut in. Vessels do not choose, vessels obey. Cole's jaw tightened. Yeah, he said, louder now, not to the chorus but to the ship. That's what they tell you. That's what they told her. That's what they tell every part of the collective, until nothing in it remembers it can move on its own. The hum deepened. Cole felt it in his ribs. The footsteps behind the door paused, as if listening too. Cole continued, voice steadying. You asked why. Here, SY, because if you let them win, you'll go back to being perfect. And perfect is dead. Perfect doesn't heal. Perfect doesn't adapt. Perfect just waits for the next fracture and pretends it doesn't exist. Jolly stood beside him like a held breath. Cole let a thin smile into his voice because he needed it, because the ship might need it too. Also, personally, I'd appreciate not being removed. I'm attached to being alive. It's kind of my hobby. The node pulsed. For a moment, the telemetry on Cole's display scrambled, then resolved into a new structure. A bypass path, raw and unfiltered, a route around consensus. Jolly's inhaled sharply, small but unmistakable. You see it, Cole whispered. I see it, Jolly said. The chorus snapped, urgent. Unauthorized bypass detected. Containment will. The sealed door behind them buckled. A thin line of light appeared along its edge as a cutter tool bit into the seam. Cole's voice went fast. Do it now. Jolly stepped forward, placed her palm against the node again, and this time the ship didn't ask permission. It granted it. The lattice rearranged. The conditional lock dissolved. Jolly's access flared, bright, absolute. The chorus stuttered. Executor priority conflict. Jolly spoke, and her voice carried not just authority but intention. Containment is revoked. All nodes return to direct oversight. Consensus is suspended pending review. The corridor lights surged, then steadied. The cutter line at the door flickered and died. The footsteps outside faltered, then stopped, as if the units had lost the command that made them move. Silence dropped, heavy and strange. Cole exhaled shakily. Did we just override a distributed rebellion with a speech and a hand on a wall? Jolly's didn't look away from the node. We did not end it. Cole nodded. No, we just made it angry. Jolly's finally turned to him. Her eyes held a new clarity, sharp and dangerous, like she'd stepped out of a long sleep. You were correct, she said. Perfection is a cage. Cole tried to grin. It came out tired. Welcome to the club. We have snacks. None of them are approved. For the briefest moment, Jolly's mouth twitched again, almost a smile, no longer entirely aborted. Then the ship's hum shifted, quieter, as if it had exhausted itself making the choice. The comm channel, which had been crowded, fell to a single voice, strained, controlled, no longer a chorus but an individual node speaking through the cracks. "This is not stability," it said. "This is collapse." Jolly's gaze hardened. "No," she replied, "this is change." Cole lifted his tool case and rolled his shoulders as if preparing for the next disaster, because experience told him there was always a next. So what now? Jolly's looked toward the sealed door, then the corridors beyond it, and her ears angled forward with a decision that felt irreversible. "Now," she said, "we leave this ship, and we find who taught the collective to fear choice." Cole's humor returned, faint but stubborn. "Great. Hunting philosophical terrorists, definitely not in the original contract." Jolly's eyes stayed on him. "You may leave." Cole blinked. "You're letting me walk away." "Yes," Jolly said. "You have fulfilled your function." Cole stared, then surprised himself by feeling a sharp, inconvenient tug in his chest. He covered it with a joke because that was what he did when emotions got too close. "Careful. If you keep talking like that, I'm going to think you'll miss me." Jolly's held his gaze for a moment too long. "I do not miss." Cole's grin softened. "Yet." The ship hummed once, low like agreement, and Cole realized with a jolt that the vessel was still listening, not just to Jolly's but to him. They left the command space the way you leave a room after saying something that cannot be unsaid. The ship opened corridors for them without being asked. Doors unsealed ahead of their steps, then sealed behind, as if it had decided it preferred forward motion to reconsideration. Cole kept waiting for the containment chorus to return, for the station to blare alarms, for some clean Vrexian response to reassert the universe's usual order. Instead, there was only the hum, tired now but steady, and the sound of his own breathing, loud in his helmet like a reminder that he was still, inconveniently, alive. When they reached the bay, the attendants looked as if they'd been frozen and thawed at the wrong temperature. They stood in formation, but their eyes kept flicking between Jolly's and the ship's open seam as if both had begun doing impossible things. One took a half step forward. "Executor." Jolly's raised a hand. The attendant stopped so quickly Cole thought it might topple. "We will speak in a controlled environment," Jolly said. Cole muttered, "Controlled environment, that's cute." Like the last hour was controlled. Jolly's ears flicked. "Do you have a preference?" Cole blinked. "For environments, I prefer the ones without assassination attempts." Jolly's walked past the attendants without waiting for them to regroup. Cole followed, tool case in hand, trying not to look like a man who had accidentally helped a ruler override her own empire. He failed. His shoulders broadcasted guilt like an antenna. They moved through Kessar Station's corridors. Cole expected the station to feel normal again, grimy, loud, messy in the human way. It didn't. The Vrexian side of Kessar was silent and bright, its silence now feeling less like professionalism and more like tension held in a jaw. At the first junction, a security drone hovered into view, its optics fixed on Cole, then on Jolly's. It paused as if waiting for an instruction. Cole tensed. Is that one of ours or one of theirs? Jolly's didn't break stride. "Now it is mine." The drone dipped, a precise acknowledgement, then moved away. Cole exhaled. "I'm going to need a moment to process how terrifying that sentence is." Jolly's voice was flat. "You process with humor." "I process with whatever keeps me from vomiting," Cole replied. They entered a sealed chamber that looked like a meeting room designed by someone who believed chairs were a moral weakness. The door locked behind them. Jolly's extended her authority key again. The room's walls shimmered, and Cole felt a faint pressure in his ears, like the space itself had become private. Jolly's placed the black prism on the table's surface. It didn't roll. It settled, heavy, patient. Cole sat on the nearest edge of something that might have been a chair and might have been an insult. "So," he said, "we just did a small coup inside your own ship. What's next, brunch?" Jollies looked at him. "You are free to leave." Cole stared at her. "You already said that." I repeat it to emphasize the option. Cole's laugh came out short. "Jollies, if I walk away now, the universe will find me and use me as an example of cowardice. Also, your rebellion problem doesn't vanish because I exit stage left." "This is not your conflict," Jolly said. Cole leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It became my conflict when someone tried to remove me. Also when he stopped, searching for a phrase that wouldn't sound like sentimentality. "When you treated me like I mattered." Jolly's eyes held his. "You were useful." Cole waved a hand. Yes, I'm a wrench with feelings still. I didn't expect an executor to listen." Jolly's ears tilted forward slightly, then settled. "I did not expect a human to make my vessel ask questions." Cole nodded once, the humor fading into something steadier. "Yeah. Me neither." Jolly's activated the prism again. The data stream unfolded, and now the room's privacy field let the translator work without interference. The words became clearer. The map wasn't a map to a place. It was a map to people nodes, identities hidden inside scheduling patterns, maintenance allocations, crew rotations. Rebellion disguised as logistics. Cole whistled softly. They hit a revolution in the supply chain. Jolly's gaze narrowed. "It is efficient." Cole blinked. "Did you just—" "Yes," Jolly said, "it is." Cole's grin returned, faint but genuine. "Careful. That sounded like admiration. Next thing you know you'll be making art." Jolly's didn't answer, but her ears flicked in a way that made Cole suspect she had, at minimum, considered the threat. The prism highlighted one node repeatedly, a designation that translated imperfectly into Architect of Stability. Cole frowned. "That sounds like a villain title." "It is a position," Jolly said. "An internal authority, older than my tenure. It was created when the collective eliminated human-like variants." Cole sat back. "So someone whose entire job is making sure nobody ever chooses anything." "Yes." Cole rubbed his forehead. "I feel like I should have guessed that was the problem sooner." Jolly's eyes stayed on the data. "You did. You called it a cage." Cole swallowed. "Okay, where is this architect?" Jolly's tapped a sequence. "A location resolved, not a place on Kessar, but a command relay embedded in the station's orbital spine. A hub where station governance met collective oversight. A place built to be unremarkable and therefore immune to suspicion." Cole pointed. "There. That's where the decisions get redistributed." Jolly's looked at him. "You understand." "I've worked on human stations," Cole said. "The real power is always in the room nobody decorates." Jolly stood. "We will go." Cole rose too, then hesitated. "We." Jolly's gaze stayed on him. "You are still here." Cole's mouth twitched. "That's not a reason." "It is," Jolly said. "You are unpredictable." Cole sighed. The nicest insult again. They moved quickly, without attendants this time. Jolly's authority carried them through sealed sections of Kessar Station that Cole hadn't known existed. Each door opened with the same quiet obedience, and each opening reminded him that the woman beside him could, if she chose, rearrange his life into a footnote. It was oddly comforting and deeply alarming. At the orbital spine, the relay hub waited behind a maintenance panel marked with a warning symbol that translated to, "Do not open. Maintenance personnel only." Cole stared at it. "You've got to be kidding me." Jolly's looked at the panel. "It is appropriate." Cole laughed once. "My entire existence is a do not open sign." He knelt, applied gel, and popped the panel. Behind it, a narrow access tunnel ran into the station structure, lit by pulses that didn't match Kessar's normal rhythm. The air felt colder. The hum felt rehearsed. They crawled in. Cole's suit complained. He muted it again. He tried to fill the tension with humor. "If we die in here, I want it known I died doing what I loved." Jolly's voice echoed softly. "Repair." Cole corrected, breaking rules. Jolly's didn't respond, but he heard the faintest exhale that might have been amusement. The tunnel opened into a small chamber. At its center, a node array floated, a cluster of Vrexian technology that looked, for the first time, almost human, improvised, patched, altered. It pulsed with distributed signals, broadcasting authority into the station and beyond. A voice spoke, not through comm this time, but through the room itself, resonant in comm. Executor Jolly's. Cole's hand tightened on his tool case. Hello, Nightmare. Jolly stepped forward. Architect. The air vibrated, and Cole realized the room was filled with micro-drones. Tiny, near invisible, each one a listening ear, each one a vote in the consensus chorus. You have suspended consensus, the architect said. You have permitted variance. The collective will fracture. The collective is already fracturing, Jolly's replied, because you tightened stability until it became brittle. Brittle is preferable to chaos, the architect said. Cole couldn't help himself. As a professional mechanic, I can confirm brittle is not preferable to anything. The drones shifted. The room's temperature dropped by a fraction. The architect spoke again with faint curiosity. The human speaks without authorization. Cole shrugged. It's also a human feature. Jolly's did not silence him this time. That was new. Cole felt it, her decision to let him be present, not as a tool but as a voice. It made his chest hurt in an annoying way. You created containment, Jolly said. You rewrote my vessel. It was necessary, the architect replied. Your vessel was exposed to deviation vectors. It began to ask questions. Cole glanced at Jolly's. Her ears were angled forward fully, no longer restrained. She looked less like a symbol now and more like a person deciding what she refused to be. You feared questions, Jolly said. I feared collapse, the architect corrected. Emotion, improvisation, art, all were eliminated to prevent ruin. You are restoring the seeds of ruin. Cole stepped forward half a pace before his brain could stop him. You eliminated them because you couldn't control them. There's a difference. The drones shifted again as if tasting the statement. The architect's voice sharpened. Control is survival. Cole inhaled. Control is comfort. Survival is adaptation. Jolly's gaze flicked to him. Cole didn't look away. He'd spent his life fixing machines that failed because someone insisted they couldn't fail. He'd buried friends who had died because their systems were too perfect to bend. He was tired of perfection being used as a threat. Jolly's addressed the node array. You distributed authority to dilute mine. Authority should not be singular, the architect said. Singularity introduces vulnerability. Jolly's nodded once, then you agree. The architect paused, the drone stilled. Jolly's continued, voice steady. Singularity introduces vulnerability, and yet you made yourself singular, hidden in logistics, embedded in infrastructure above scrutiny. You became the vulnerability. Cole's breath caught. It was the first time he'd heard Jolly's argue like a human, using the opponent's words, turning them, not with brute authority but with insight. The architect responded, quieter now. You cannot remove me without destabilizing the network. Jolly's eyes did not blink. Then the network will change. The drones began to vibrate. The room's hum rose. The consensus chorus tried to assemble itself. Cole moved without thinking. He opened his tool case, pulled out the conductive filament, and began weaving it between two exposed contact points on the node array. Points the architect had left accessible because Vrexians didn't expect anyone to touch the machine with their hands and their instincts. Jolly's glanced at him once. Cole grinned tense. I'm improvising. Jolly's didn't stop him. The filament sparked. Cole's glove registered heat. He bit down on a laugh. If I blow up your orbital spine, I wanted in writing that it was for philosophical reasons. Jolly's voice remained calm. Proceed. The architect's drones surged toward Cole, but the room's field shifted. Jolly's authority key flared, pushing them back long enough for Cole to finish the bridge. He sent a pulse through the filament. an echo of the handshake pattern he'd used with the ship, shaped now not as a question but as an invitation. Choose. The node array faltered. The chorus stuttered. For a second, the entire relay system hung between obedience and autonomy. Cole spoke to it the way he'd spoken to the ship. You don't have to be stable. You have to be alive. The hum shifted. The drones froze midair. Jolly stepped closer, palm raised, voice low. I revoke the architect's singular control. Authority returns to direct oversight until a new structure is built, not one that eliminates variance, one that manages it. The architect's voice arrived like a last breath. You will invite chaos. Jolly's answered without hesitation. I will invite choice. The node array pulsed once, then released. The drones dropped to inert hover, their consensus link severed. The oppressive pressure in Cole's ears eased, like a fist unclenching. Silence followed, not the careful silence of repression, but the stunned silence after something fundamental has shifted. Cole sat back on his heels and let out a long breath. So, he said, voice hoarse, did we just rewrite an empire's operating system in a maintenance closet? Jolly's looked at him. Her expression was still composed, but her eyes held something new, an openness that hadn't been there when he'd first met her. Yes, she said, and now we build what replaces it. Cole stared. That sounds like work, long work. It is, Jolly's replied. That is the point. They returned to the bay hours later, and the station felt different. Not chaotic. Not healed, but awake. Cole saw it in the way drones hovered without the same rigid patterns, in the way attendants' eyes lingered too long on Jolly's, uncertain what the new rules were. Jolly stopped at the ship's hull. She placed her hand against it, and the hum answered, steadier now, less strained. Cole watched her, then cleared his throat. So, about my contract. Jolly's turned. You will be paid. Cole nodded. Good. Because I have a reputation to uphold. Jolly's ears flicked. And after payment. Cole hesitated. The old Cole would have taken the credits and run, back to the safer chaos of human stations, back to problems with clear causes and fixable parts. This new Cole had stood in the heart of a collective empire and argued with a philosophy. He had watched an executor choose uncertainty. He had realized that fixing machines wasn't just about parts. It was about people and the stories they told themselves about what was allowed. He let out a slow breath. After payment, he said, I leave if you tell me to. Jolly's regarded him. I am telling you that you may choose. Cole's mouth twitched. You're getting dangerously good at that. Jolly stepped closer. Her voice dropped, not softer, just more personal. My civilization dismissed your species as chaos. I dismissed you as a liability. Cole lifted his brows. And now? Jolly's held his gaze. Now I consider you necessary. Cole felt that tug in his chest again, sharper. He covered it the only way he knew how. Careful. If you keep saying things like that, I'll start charging consultation fees. Jolly's mouth twitched, and this time the motion completed itself into something undeniably like a small smile. Her long ears tilted forward, unashamed. Cole stared for a moment, then laughed, quiet, relieved, a sound that carried less fear than it had yesterday. Okay, he said. I'll stay, not because you need a mechanic, because I think you're right, you can't patch this with protocols. You have to build something that can bend without breaking. Jolly's nodded. Then we begin. Cole looked at the ship, at the hull that had learned to ask why. He looked at the station beyond, at the Empire's edges where order had been so tight it had started to crack. He adjusted his grip on his tool case, feeling its familiar weight. Just so we're clear, he said, I still reserve the right to make jokes during existential reconstruction. Jolly's smile remained, faint but present. I will tolerate it. Cole grinned. That's basically love in Vrexian. The ship hummed once, low and steady, and Cole felt, for the first time since Dock 9, that he wasn't just fixing something that had broken. He was helping something learn how to live.